Welcome to the Health is the Key podcast, where we explore the health and wellness issues that matter to 1199 SEIU healthcare workers. I'm your host, Elizabeth Moore. Today, we're talking holidays, which are just around the corner. And along with the joy of family and friends and celebrations comes the challenge of eating healthfully while still enjoying the season. But food is love, and love always finds a way. So we're excited to be joined today by a special guest, Marcus Samuelsson, award-winning chef, restaurateur, television personality, author, and activist. Chef Marcus knows a thing or two about crafting crowd-pleasing meals, so today he's going to help us navigate the holiday menu with a healthy twist and lots of love. Welcome to Health is the Key, Chef Marcus.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, holidays are all about family and celebration, so do you have any memories, some favorite memories you'd like to share?
Yeah, for me, being a kid that grew up in Sweden, obviously my sister and I, we were born in Ethiopia, but we grew up in Sweden, and there's certain smells that I think about first when I think about the holidays. And being with my grandmother, she starts the cooking. If Christmas was the end goal, she started in November. And could be making cookies, freezing bread. There was always something in the oven coming out.
And that's sort of how the food is love comes.
Yes.
Spending time with them around preparation. You were saying that being an immigrant, you were learning about two different cultures. So your grandmother helped you, and now you're doing that with your own family.
Yeah, I would say that the culture that was around our house first was really the bottom of everything was poverty. Mm-hmm. Although we weren't in a poor family, but my grandparents were extremely poor, and my parents grew up poor. And as a little kid, growing up middle class with very educated parents, especially my father, it was hard they always talked about how it was being poor. So the cooking comes out of poor man's cooking, delicious, but that meant no waste. That meant you make everything yourself. So it was a lot of craftsmanship around the food, a lot of joy when we ate it, but it wasn't a ha-ha moment. It wasn't casual,
Mm-hmm. So holidays allow that, allow the joy to come into us. And I read in your book, The Rise, about how you celebrated Thanksgiving here in the United States with your family. And the leftover meals, the next day meals were amazing. The curried turkey.
Yeah.
And so can you tell us a little bit about that?
There's always gravlax. There's always some herring. There's definitely some dorowat, some Ethiopian, and some greens. And then there's turkey as well. It's just fun how it's my favorite holiday because it's really around food and getting together. And already now we start working on the pumpkin mac and cheese. That is one of his favorite things, not just to eat, but to be part of making. He's at that age that I was now. He's 8 now. When I started actually to really get into cooking with my grandmother and having those conversations, it's just fun. He loves his stuffed sweet potatoes, so we already thinking about what should we stuff them with this year, And of course, as someone who's a chef, I think about we got to get some healthier versions in there, So how can I cut some of the fat? How can I make it delicious, but also make it that we all feel good after that holiday as well, so we're not just stuffed.
Well, that's exactly what we were talking about, because a lot of us are going to be tackling the classic holiday meals like turkey, the heavy sides. So are there any secrets to tweaking the classics, like you were saying, trying to cut the fat? Are there any other, how can you, or substitute healthier sides than, creamed carrots and mashed potatoes full of butter and...
Yeah, I think one of the most amazing things with Thanksgiving is that it's really a place where you can think about, let sides, first of all, take the center. Let sides take center stage. If you want to do a creamed carrot, for example, or maybe you do it with coconut milk instead. If you want to do let's say a mac and cheese, well, make a mac and greens, folding collards into it. Always figure out where's the opportunity of cutting something that it's not just so much fat. If there is a way to do a salad, can you get grains into that salad? Can you put in farro? Can you put in fonio? These are not expensive, but they stretch it. You can make a wonderful charred corn and, let's say, sweet potato salad with some simmered farro or couscous, for example, right? It brightens it up, but you get a bite that is healthier and better for you, you know? So I would, everyone doesn't have a family size to buy a big turkey. So don't buy breast or buy thighs only, so you don't waste a lot,
And focus on the sides.
Focus on the side, put them front and center.
Making holiday meals is about pleasing, depending on how many people are coming over, pleasing a lot of different people. How do you get people used to new things? Like, wait a minute, I don't want collards in my mac and cheese. I want it the way we always have it. Like, how do you get people to try new things and expand their palates a little bit?
I mean, change is hard for us, not just for kids, right? So change is hard. But I think it's about how do you introduce it. So if I talk about mac and greens to my son, he comes with me to the farmer's market. He knows the farmer that is a really cool guy because he might engage Zion and make him maybe taste like a different apple, and now he knows it's the season of fall. So that for me with my children is like bring them along with experiences. So they're connected to the earth. And this is people behind it. These are people that we know. They have different backgrounds, but they're part of our community, right? If it's adult, maybe share that you went on a journey. Maybe you went to the South and you have really good collard greens, and I was thinking about how to fold in, making mac and cheese should be on the table, but I really wanted those collards, those vinegary collards. Well, I'm going to mix the two.
That's a great way to do it.
Share
a narrative.
Yeah. And the other thing is you can't please everybody, and that's okay. Because the beautiful thing about having friends or friends of friends coming to the house, people eat different. Could be based on spirituality, could be based on health. So if you have a buffet with, let's say, 12 items on them, right? There's 9 things you can eat and 3 you might have to leave alone, and that is okay, Or I also think it's totally fine if you're going to host, set it up early and say, hey, everybody's, make it a potluck. You get a chance to have different types of food, and people get a chance to stand up and talk about that. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. The holiday cooking should not be about pressure and I got to do everything here and I'm stressed out starting on that Sunday before Thanksgiving or Monday. But no, you're working hard, you're busy, or you're not feeling well. So shoot an email to your friends. Hey, we're going to do this together.
I think that's great. Building a story around it. Yeah. And what about the busting the myth that eating healthy is expensive, it's time consuming, not a professional chef, so how can I do this? How do you, can anyone do it?
Yes. And, many things can be true at the same time. It could be expensive. It depends on what you buy and how you cook it, right? So I think healthy for me, it's not just around the food, but it's also, it's the full pie, right? So I think your own health can start with a walk in the morning. Like I start, no matter how stressed out my day is, my wife and I, once we get our son to school, we walk 2 laps around the park. It's not a big park, but we just walk, and it's our way of connecting and our way of starting the day and feeling healthy. There's a bunch of things that, are you sleeping right? What's your relationship to alcohol? So there is a pie here that all slices got to be in there, right? But you live a super stressful life. Well, all of these things have impact, and then you blame the food. Well, food has a big part. Maybe it's 2 slices. It's not the only thing. And so then when you focus on that, well, I think there is having understanding of portion size. You want more go back up and get more. But you don't have. The plate does not have to be full. And understanding that, I'm just going to hold off a little bit on this. So I think that this is really, really important. And then understanding how do I have a flavorful meal, but cutting back on certain fats, And you can do that with smart, intelligent cooking. And that's, for me, why, I just wrote a piece in the New York Times about African grains. But grains are not expensive, and grains are delicious, and they can be folded in. They can be part of a stuffing. They can be folded into so many things that makes that meal even more delicious. You can substitute that white pasta for a better grain pasta, for example, because we're not built up as people to have 12 ounces of protein and then, a cup and a half of mac and cheese and then a little bit of greens. No, that meal needs to be shifted. Maybe more greens, maybe a salad, maybe a tablespoon and a half of mac and cheese, maybe 4 ounces of meat. Maybe you have a fresh fruit afterwards, like an apple or something like that after, or melon. So you get water into your body, acid into your body that are natural, And then if you go back in and do like this big sweet potato pie with marshmallows on top, right? Okay, then you're not going to feel well. I'm not saying don't have a slice of the pie. Have it, but in moderation.
So I want to ask you, I'm very intrigued by Dora Wat.
Yeah.
Because it looks delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that can be made healthy?
No.
Is it healthy? No?
No. It's delicious.
Okay.
But when do people eat Dora Wat? After that breaks the fast. So I'm the first to tell you, celebrate with your food. Enjoy the food. So the joy, what makes that delicious, is not just what's on the plate, but it's also because of you breaking your fast, right? So, Dora Wat is chicken that you cook, slow cook, really bunch of red onions that you cook down that become sweet on low heat. Then you add in berberet. Then you add in a little bit of kebe, which is fermented butter. That is aged, but it could be regular butter and olive oil, and that's where a lot of the fat comes in, right? So, of course, you can pull back on that, and you can get beautiful chicken stew. But Dora Wat is also eaten with a lot of vegetables, right? And that's, again, the opportunity. Dora Wat in Ethiopia, the sauce is the star, right? And the vegetables around it and the platter with injera. So, yes, you can have it healthy. It can be a healthier meal. But you have to look at it. Get your lentils on that plate. Get your carrots on that plate. Maybe a nice, beautiful kale salad, something like that, just have a little acid. And celebrate the sauce.
I did want to ask you, we're asking about healthy foods that you can adapt. But what's one indulgence that you just shouldn't even try to make healthy and just have it in moderation? Would it be Dora Wat?
I would know. I think, Dora Wat does not have to be unhealthy because it's really about how you make it, how would you pair with it. There's no desserts in Ethiopian culture. There are influenced by France and Italy, but if you go to an Ethiopian household, there might be honey, but there's no cakes. So sugar is taken out of the food. So you can actually eat other things because sugar is now gone.
You're not going to have that at the end of a meal, right?
Very little, maybe in coffee, or maybe you get influenced by a French pastry or something like that. But if you're looking in the process of where the food culture comes from, 0 sugar. And so that's why it's so great to look at other cultures. Like you can make, if you want to make a risotto-based dish, which we love, is creamy, make it with farro. It's going to cook easier. It's going to be better for you. You can process it better, right? That's great. Think about a wonderful salad like an Armenian bulgur or cracked wheat. Excellent to fold. You make a kale salad with bulgur for the holidays. You can either roast your sweet potato and fold that in, a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of olive oil, some beautiful spice level that you want. You have a wonderful salad. So you can still stick to the tradition that your family's defined as this is what Thanksgiving should look like, but cut it with affordable. Cracked wheat is not expensive, but it's going to be great for. Add apples into that salad. Chop in some dried cranberries. Now you have it.
That's great.
Make Brussels the star of your sides this year, right? Just roast Brussels in a pan, medium heat. Add in, if you want to add some of that turkey fat when you roast it, so that's your fat. Add in just a little bit of cumin and just some spices that you like. Finish it with a teaspoon of maple syrup. You get that sweetness. Maybe even a teaspoon of soy in the end. Boom, you get caramelized Brussels. Undercooked, don't overcook them. Undercooked. Fold in maybe your cooked carrots into that. Now you have something that is beautiful, delicious. Sweetness from the maple is very different than sweetness from sugar.
It does sound so simple the way you explained it, that you can just experiment. And, experimentation, you had said, be curious, be bold with flavors. So that's sort of a way to get away from the heavier things. So, but if people don't feel comfortable with spices that they're, I do salt and pepper, how can people start experimenting with flavors?
You have to meet people where they're at, because I get that, right? But you want it to be delicious. And you can't look at spices as spicy. It's not heat. Spices are there for digestions, it's there for fermentations, it's there for so many things. So you have to, it's like, if you think about spices from, let's say, the Middle East, Urfa, Aleppo, garam masala, these are not spicy things. Delicious, adds flavor. Cumin, coriander adds flavors, not spicy. You got to go way up on the heat scale to get spicy. There's other ways to get flavor into your food too, using vinegars. Thinking about that, you need acid in your food. Using lemon and lime juice, so you get natural acid into it. Using citrus, fall is coming up, citrus is going to be great. Using apples, cutting it with natural sweetness, not sugar, apple, pear into that roasted Brussels, whatever it is, right? So ways to incorporate your season. If you understand your season, it's not 4 seasons when it comes to cooking. There's basically 12 to 18 seasons. Every 2 to 3, 4 weeks, something changes. Why is that important? Because obviously food, you want to buy food at its peak, both because of its deliciousness, but also because of affordability, right? Simplest example, try corn between July 20th and October 1st. It's so sweet, it's so natural, delicious. And try to buy it in January. I don't even know why corn is in the store in January and how it got there. It's just a simpler thing. And look at the pricing. And then look at the flavor. It's this stocky thing that doesn't taste like corn.
And what about, now that we're entering the holiday season, and it's great that you remind people to buy things at their peak. So what are some things that our members can look forward to seeing in the market, seeing in green markets to get ready for the holidays?
Oh, fall is fantastic. Farmers market is for you. The farmers market in your community is for you. There's also very different, like Harlem, in our farmers markets, there's different, it's more vegetables that fits its local community, which was not the case before. So a lot of work has been done in the farmers market to becoming this wherever you live, that's your farmers market. It's not for them, whoever they are, it's for you.
So hit the farmers market.
Yeah, hit the farmers market and ask questions. What farm is this from? Okay. What do you have coming up in the next 2 weeks? Like with the fishmonger and the farmer, engage. Because they know what's coming up. So now you know that, this is coming, we're coming into season. I can prepare myself for that, right? So of course, on the fruit side, you're going to have great apples and pears now for a long time, and variations of them. And the beauty of this is what a granny is supposed to be, this green and sour. And this is what a Fuji apple might be. And this is what an Asian pear might look like. And then, of course, your Brussels, your greens, your mushrooms, fantastic. Your carrots, your rainbow carrots, right? Like, there's a lot of food here. And of course, your pumpkins, your different types of pumpkins coming in, right? So that right there is just delicious. But I think on the protein side, I think it's important to understanding cuts. You have a butcher in front of you. What is these cuts? How do I... This needs bracing. If you go to a market, you have a right to talk to the person behind the desk. Do it, because you're going to get more educated, and the more educated you are, the better you're going to cook, and the more affordable it's going to be. You can save up to 40% doing that right.
If you don't have a farmer's market near you, can you do this in your typical grocery store? Can you engage the butcher? Will they know? Yeah, or is it really the farmer's market they know?
No. I mean, if you look at, of course, we in New York, we are very privileged that we have things in our convenience. I live in Harlem. I go to the Bronx a lot. Butchers are still around, and they are excellent, and they want to talk to you. And I love that. And that's the person with the most knowledge on cuts. Convenience was something that we traded off for natural cooking basically in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. I'm not saying convenience is not great, but there's a balance. So I think for me, it's all about engaging conversation. Talk to your neighbor about that, whether he's from Italy or you're from South Carolina. What an amazing meal you guys can make together, right?
Right.
For me, it's all an engagement on, I always say to my son, mind your own business when we go places. Well, in terms of cooking, don't mind your own business. Be nosy, ask questions, be that person.
Yeah.
That's
great. Well, if there's one thing that you can leave our members as a takeaway to get ready for the holidays, what would it be?
Cook together. Cook a lot. Cook together. Like a lot of people are alone, and try to break that. So have friends over or cook together. Whether you do that sometimes on FaceTime because you just not physically can do it, but invite that person that you might know. It doesn't have family members come up, invite that person.
And embracing the holidays is about togetherness, and you can learn healthy tips from each other.
Yes, and we leave majority of people that work so hard. So cooking is one of these things that most of the time it's better when you do it with more people. And I'm very fortunate being a chef, so I'm around great people all the time from all backgrounds. Gender, race, all of these things, it's just out the window. And it's just human interaction. And moments like that is super important. And I think that's the beauty of the community around food. And it's not for one type of society, it's for everyone.
That's perfect and sums up the holidays perfectly. So thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for joining us. We've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Tune in to our November keynote where Chef Marcus shares a simple recipe for injera, a nutritious bread that is the perfect go-with for all your healthy meals. For more information on what you heard today, please check our show notes. And remember, subscribe to Health is the Key wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast and its content are presented solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. The information and opinions provided on this podcast are not intended as legal or medical advice and do not constitute or serve as a substitute for professional medical or psychological treatment, diagnosis, therapy, or other types of professional intervention.